So Inspired for Impact is a group that was set up in 2018. We were inspired to set up Inspired for Impact for professionals in the marketplace. So professionals who want to do things right in the godly way, professionals who want to make impact in their spheres of influence, professionals who need people to mentor them, and also professionals who have gained experience and they want to also give back to mentor others. And so that is what Inspired for Impact is. We believe at Inspired for Impact that every human has an assignment. There's a reason for you, God creating you. And that reason is your assignment, your primary purpose. So for us, Inspired for Impact is one of the expressions of the assignment God has given us. And that is to equip believers and Christians in the marketplace and even beyond those who are named Christians, for as many that can be impacted by the things God has given us, the things we have learned, and the experiences we have garnered over the years. And so Inspired for Impact is a give back platform. And so on that platform, Living Inspired series, which is one of what we're holding today, is an expression of that platform. Still on that platform, we have a book club that we run every other month. On that platform, we have an annual event in November, which we tag My Journey, My Story. Another one is going to be coming up in November this year. And so straight to the session this evening. Yes, glad to see you here, Busy Hands. Ella Gracie, thank you for joining. BM Creations, thank you for joining. And so when we say managing upward, we're starting right away. And when you hear the word managing upwards, what the phrase managing upward, definitely it tells you that whoever it is that you're managing is above you. So typically, people go through a lot of sessions, and especially leaders or managers or team leads go through a lot of sessions where they are taking through the rudiments of managing a team leadership, supervisory skills, and in related sessions. But hardly do you find organized sessions that will really just take you through on how do you manage people above you. And so also a further background to this session is to say that the session is for everybody, whether you are at the beginning of your career, whether you're mid or whether you're senior. At every point in your career, you have somebody you're reporting to. And so the fundamental principles of managing those above you are the things we're going to be dealing with today. And so just to give a starting note is to say to everybody here that your supervisor, your boss, so I'm going to use the word your boss a lot in this on this video. And so your boss plays a significant role in your career success. Your boss plays a significant role in the success of your career. It means that how far you can go depends a lot on your boss. And so there are a lot of factors. So I'm going to say this now because I know that so many individuals make mistakes that I have made in the past. And, starting my career and even in my mid-level, I used to think, or I maybe not deliberately think, but I acted because I knew that, if I'm good on my job, once I give something quality, I deliver quality, it's going to take me to the, to the level that I want to get to in my career. So it took me making certain mistakes. It took me falling down. It took me not managing certain individuals well. It took me even missing out on relationships that had started off well and then missing out on managing them well because I missed out on that bit of managing upwards. There's a level you get in your career that you tend to focus on people that are reporting to you and, focus so much on them. Or even when you do not have people reporting to you, you now tend to focus so much on doing your work well. Because you get into the job, you're given something to do, and then you want your job to be top quality, top notch every time. Yes, that's fantastic. But newsflash, the truth is, as much as the quality of your work will help you, research has proven that a lot of people, many times people get jobs, they get placements based on their abilities, but you get progression. So listen, you get placement based on your ability, but your progression has a lot to do with your relationships. And when you say relationships, if you are in an environment that is structured, you have a lot of different assessments. There are assessments that are called 360 assessments. So for 360 assessments, your peers on your level, people above your level, people beneath your level, they all, fill an assessment form, and they give different perception of how they see you, and they assess you on different elements that have been put in the assessment form. But you know what? For many individuals in professional world, you realize that many times the people on your level will tend to rate you better than the people above your level. And the reason is because the people above your level are seeing a lot more things that you haven't seen. And so this topic reminds me of the adage that says that when a young person will sit down, or even climb a tree and not see, an adult or an old person will sit down and see it. And so that 360 assessment that any professional will be taking through, that assessment, many times, except in very few instances, if you have different individuals fill that assessment, your peers who are in a good relationship with you, especially, so all things being equal, this is for you who are doing your job fantastic. If it's for an individual who is doing so well, you tick all the boxes in the expectations of your role. And so everything you're supposed to do, you're doing them well and you're top notch. So for an individual like that, if you place that person on a 360 assessment, the odds are likely that individuals or supervisors or managers or senior managers or whoever it is that is the boss to that person will most likely rate that person slightly lower than the person's peers. And again, let me tell you why that is. It's because there are expectations that you might not be aware of. There are experiences these individuals have gotten that you do not have. There are things about the job that they expect that you might not necessarily know. They come with experience. And so you can ask me, why go through a 360? If the reason why I'm being evaluated by people above me are things that I'm not even aware of. So someone here might say, but that's not fair. And my response is, life itself isn't fair. That's the truth. And so the reason why you're here is to now know, what are the things I now need to do differently? And maybe to give you a background to why I am doing this. I'm coming from a number of, I'm going to be giving you different pictures on this live chat. And so the different pictures of the experiences I have had as an individual. And so the first picture is this. I'm a human resources professional. I have managed people both on my team and within an organization as head of HR. I've also managed people as a consultant, consulting for organization. I have managed people as someone who manages employee relations in a multinational. And so the breadth and the wealth of my career journey gives me a right placement to be able to share this journey. But that's one picture, so I'm going to drop that in a bucket. The other picture that I'm coming from, that I want you to see, the lens I really want you to see this session through, is that I'm speaking to you as somebody who has both managed successfully upward relationship, but I have also failed in certain instances. And beyond just being successful and failing at some, I have in some instances failed at some relationships and started off well. So there's some relationships that started off very well, and along the line, because I wasn't very, very sensitive in managing the individuals beyond the job, I missed out on the benefits of some of those relationships. And then the other reason why I can't share this with you is because I have also over the years helped people to manage this dilemma that we face in the place of work. And so we're going to be going through a number of tips that I will share with you. And then the other bit is that I will also be sharing with you some key things that you should be aware of as we go through this. I'll be sharing with you real life examples of what I have experienced and what I've seen colleagues of mine experience. So it's going to be a really rich session. The final picture I want to bring to you is that I have sat in assessment sessions where people and this is across West Africa, and in some instances even beyond, not even West Africa, across Africa actually. So I've sat in manager assessment sessions, and for sessions where people were going to be taken in at the topmost level of the organization. So this is professional services where being a partner is the top executive level. That's the height that you want to get to, apart from being the CEO. So I've had the opportunity to manage sessions like that, and many times questions around how you manage your boss, those sort of questions come in and they form a crucial part of the assessment, because you don't want to bring somebody into leadership who is not going to be able to manage, the boss well. And so when we say managing upward, what do we mean? Managing upward, it means that I'm looking above and the people sitting above me, how do I manage them? The first point I would say this evening or this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, is that your boss is human. Your boss is human. That's the first point. The other point I would say, which I said before, but to reiterate for those who are just joining us, is that your boss, the success of your relationship with your boss is directly proportional to the success of your career journey. Please note that. The success of your relationship with your boss is directly proportional to the success of your career journey. And let me say this to you. There are many individuals who struggle with their bosses. Somebody's going to come to this call and say to me, I know some persons are listening to me and they're saying to me, but my boss is the worst boss you can ever think about. My boss is the devil incarnate himself. And every time I hear things like that, I go back and I say, your boss is human. And so if your boss is human, there's something we say, I know your button. I know in the Nigerian parlance, we use the word, we say, your mumu button. Every individual has that button. And so maybe I'm jumping the gun. So before I get to that point, I'm going to again say this, your boss is human. And the success of your relationship with your boss is directly proportional to the success of your career journey, wherever you find yourself. And so the question is, if your boss is that fantastic boss, how do you manage him or her? If your boss is the devil himself, how do you manage him or her? Everybody has a soft point. Everybody has a soft point. And so we're going to be learning a few things. Some other things that we're going to be saying on this call, I'll talk to you about knowing your boss. I'll talk to you about assessing your boss and assessing yourself. I'll talk to you about mapping your stakeholders, those who are above you, and mapping them and knowing how to relate with each one of them, depending on the role they play in your career journey. And then I'm going to be giving you real life examples, how that two individuals, with the same, everything the same relationship makes a world of difference. Again, take this down. In the final analysis of our careers as professionals, in the final analysis, the people that you work with counts the most. When we hear things like this, it's all about people, it's all about people. Many times as individuals, we are only looking at the people that we are impacting. So the people that we have a lot to say in their progress. So when somebody says it's all about people, I'm thinking to myself, how do people see me? How do I affect people? How am I nice to people? It's not just that. That's just one end of it. And unfortunately, and that is the less impactful end of it. Yes, that side of it can become impactful after work, after your career. The younger people that you impacted are the people that will remember what you have done. But now, the other end of it are those who are above you, and the impact they will have on your career is a lot more significant compared to the impact of your peers and those beneath you. So let's just go into knowing your boss. As you're listening to me, I want to give you a quick exercise. At the last 15 minutes of this session, let's say this. I'm going to be taking a few questions that we can take. So please, during the last 15 minutes of the session, I'll open it up for people to drop questions, and then we can go through this. Let me give you this quick assignment. Think about your direct boss. Just think about your direct boss. Who is your direct boss? Who is that person that is going to evaluate you at the end of the day? Who is that person who is going to say, on these 5 criteria that has been set for promotion, this is what Victoria has been rated on. This is what Ikechukwu has been rated. This is what Jide has been rated. Who is that person? Think about that person in your mind. That's the first step. Think about that person. And if you have a notebook, write it down. So my next question is, what's that person's likes? What does that person like? So this is your direct boss now. The person who's going to evaluate you, the person who determines how far you are going, who determines your next move, who determines the opportunities that you are open to. Think about that person. What does that person like? What does that person dislike? This is in work environment now. What's that person's work style? Those are 3 questions I've asked you. What's the person's likes, whether in the work environment or even outside? What's the person's dislikes? So somebody you're working with, yes, you should know. And then the last bit is, what's the person's work style? Is it somebody who likes to work in the night, or somebody who likes to gist a while and then work, or somebody who just wants to know you in a personal way? Some persons come to work and say that, oh, we only come to work, we don't have to be friends. Do you have that boss who wants to be friends? Do you have that boss who wants to know you beyond work? Do you have that boss who can just gist? Or do you have that boss who, you know what, before we gist, let's just deliver on our job. It doesn't mean I don't care for you. You can have that boss who knows when your antenatal class is, and you can have that boss who does not even know that you gave birth. That you are pregnant when your tummy is right in front of his face, and he's wondering, okay, why are you going for antenatal? And then you're almost even dropping in the office. You have different individuals. So you've done those 3 questions you've answered those 3 questions for your boss. Then flip the sheets now. Answer the same question for yourself. What are your likes and what are your dislikes, and what's your working pattern? I'm going to give you a minute to quickly do that. So you have your boss on your left-hand side and yourself on your right-hand side. The 3 questions, remember, what are your likes, what are your dislikes, and then what's your boss's preferred work pattern? The other bit is for you to feel this for yourself. Well, your likes, your dislikes, and then your own preferred work pattern. So I believe that you would have done this already. So we'll just quickly delve in. For as many that have done that exercise, look again in your exercise. I want to believe that there will be areas of differences, and for many persons. So please, if you can drop in the comment segment, for those of you who have done that exercise, quickly drop something. If your similarities are more than your dissimilarities, please put a yes. If you have more differences, put a no. Please, if you have similarities more than dissimilarities, put a yes. But if you have more differences, put a no. I just want to be sure that you did that exercise. Please, we can just drop your comment. If you have a higher similarity with your boss, please quickly drop a yes there. And then if you have differences on a higher scale, drop a yes. Drop a no, sorry. Yes? Okay, so Joshua says he has more similarities with his boss. Okay, if the differences, please drop no. Can I see the no? Yes. Our similarities are more. Great. Okay. No, somebody says no. The similarities, the differences are more. Okay. I want to take from one more person. Okay, another yes. Okay, so let's take this. As much as I wouldn't want to do another survey here, there's a likelihood that your similarities, for those who have a higher similarity with their bosses, the likelihood, and I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, if we're going to run a survey, so for example, if I have 100%, so now I've seen a lot more no than yeses from people who have responded. So if you look at the yeses, there's a high chance that you have worked with this person for a while, and you have over time tried to adjust to this person's preferred style of working. Yes, it could also be by chance that you have the same, you like the same kind of things. You can't take that out of the picture if that's possible. But the point now is, for those areas where the difference is, you have to find a way to manage them. And let me tell you this news: it is your responsibility. When we sit in a class and we're taking team leaders, and coincidentally, I'm actually planning a team leader session now, in the office. But when we're taking the team leaders through a session like this, we tell them it is your responsibility to bring your team up to speed, to manage your team, to manage the different individuals. And the truth is, it is. But when they say that your career is in your hand, as an individual who knows what you want, you know where you're going to, and you also know that you are in a pool. A pool means that it's not just you in that place. So the leader or the manager or the boss who is mindful and wants to lead the team well, that person, mind this, is pressed for time. That person, has a lot of demand on him or her. That person will be in a situation where he will not have the luxury of time all the time to think about being fair. To say, I have given A an opportunity 2 times already, let me give B. That person will have, in fact, many times, the most critical, the most crucial opportunities will not be given enough time to be thought about. So many times the most crucial and important opportunities, the bosses will not have adequate time to sit down and plan, who do I give that opportunity to? And so at that time, that person who is in the face of that boss, the person who knows the boss best, the person who the boss feels, this person works like me, the person who the boss remembers the most will get that opportunity. And that's the person who has learned to manage the boss better. And so the question you have in your mind is, so how do I bridge that gap? And how do I manage my boss? How do I place myself in that position, to have that opportunity? Because the truth is, you aren't here because you just want to manage your boss and, just because I want to know how to work with him. There's always the question at the back of our minds, even when you don't voice it out, you're asking yourself, either consciously or unconsciously, that question is, what's in it for me? In your career, as you grow through your career, you're managing your boss. When you hear the topic managing upwards, you're asking yourself, what's in it for me? Why should I manage my boss? How is it going to impact my career? And that's why you're here. And so the first question, the first theme, having done that exercise and seeing the points of correlation and the differences, my first comment for you is this, know your boss. So if you were here and you couldn't answer that question correctly, or it took you a while to answer that question, chances are that you do not know your boss well enough. And if you do not know your boss well enough, there's no way you are able to manage your boss well, because you need to know who you're managing. And so let me just quickly drop something I hadn't planned to drop here. For many that will be saying, how do I know my boss? I've already given you those 3 questions. Go back and reflect on those questions. Study your boss, look at them, look at your own areas and see, how can I find a balance? But one of the other ways to know your boss is this, and every boss will oblige you, no matter how wicked or how unreasonable or how insensitive a boss is. If you go to a boss at the beginning of the year, or even at the time where you've just gotten an evaluation, sit with your boss and say, what exactly on this job, in this role, this question, what exactly would I do to be a top performer? What exactly do you want me to do differently to get? So I've been rated a B. What will I do to get an A? Let me tell you what. If you get a B is usually very good in a work environment that is very structured. Many times that A is that point where you get to do your work the way your boss wants it. And so when your boss is telling you, this is what you need to do to make, to get a grade A, what that person is most likely telling you is, this is how I want you to do it. And so let me give you this example of 2 staff who started an organization at the same time. They joined an organization the same time, both A-level students, both of them graduated from school during their NYSC. They both got chartered. They studied accounting in university and then went straight to NYSC, continued with ICANN. They both got chartered at the same time and then got into school, got into the place of work at the same time. Both of them first-class graduates. But guess what? One of them knew how to manage the boss, understood that while my work can't be quality work, this is my kind of person. So your boss can be that person that just wants you, get it well the first time. And so if your boss is the person who wants you to get it right the first time, it might just mean that you need to create a time to sit with your boss every time you get an assignment. And sit with that boss and say, this is the assignment you have said to me. These are my thoughts. What are you thinking? You don't just go with an empty sheet and go and expect your boss to download everything to you. No. So you go there, you put down a few things. I just said a leading question. These are my thoughts about it. What do you want? What are you thinking? On the other hand, you might have a boss that would say to you, Victoria, what I want is progress over perfection. And so for a boss like that, it means that you would have started something, sent to him and say, please sir, please madam, I'd like us to review this together. This is what I have done, but before I conclude, I want you to see. And the person now comes in, you have a session together. That person wants to see that you have progressed, and the person might just say, okay, we've done this before, this is what I have. For a boss who wants it perfection the first time, that sort of boss, you might go to the person and say, as somebody's done this before, Because many times, hardly do you find an assignment that somebody hasn't done something related before. So on the one hand, you can have a boss that will tell you, and I've experienced it, that will always say to you, go check what we did, last year. Just check. It was fantastic last year. Check it and build on it. Some other boss will say, bring in an outside-in perspective. Let's hear let's not build on, let's not keep recycling material. Let's see what's happening in the environment. Let's see what's happening in our industry. And let's bring in something new. And the reason why you have two different bosses saying these things are two major reasons. One, the personality of the boss. And two, happenings in the industry or even in the organization that you might not be aware of. And let me also drop this as I wrap up the point of knowing your boss. Is the fact that even your boss that you think you might know and know his style, it is always good. Let me say this on your own. And I said this before, that the success of your career progression is directly proportional to the success of a relationship with your boss. And I said to those who joined early, it is your responsibility to ensure that success. And so one of the ways you can take up that responsibility is to ensure that you have a regular connect with your boss. And when I say regular connect, I mean both structured and unstructured. Structured to say, oh, hello, sir, I want to have a monthly catch up with you. And in your monthly catch-up, because many times, for some persons, that boss who's going to be evaluating you does not have oversight over every single piece of work that you do. And so in your monthly catch-up, you are doing two things. You are understanding your boss, but you're also giving your boss the opportunity to see the things that you have done in that period of time, the things that the boss might not be necessarily aware of. And so when you do things like that, two things you're doing, you're building that relationship, but you are also creating a good record for your image. Because these are the things that will be remembered later. And so when you have a regular connect with your boss too, another thing that will happen is that connect is not going to be all about work. It's not going to be all about work. There are things you're going to be discussing in the business. The things you're going to be discussing outside work. So you have a 1 hour session, and then something recently happened. I asked a few people, let me digress a bit. I've asked a few people some questions, and I asked people, do you know, and please don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about licking boots. I'm not talking about sucking up to people. But you have a direct boss who you've worked with for a while. And I asked the person, do you know your boss's birthday? Do you even want to take it further and say, do you even know the children's birthday? Sometimes things as simple as that. Something as simple as that can go a long way. Unconsciously, many times the decisions that we take as supervisors, as managers, are the decisions that are in our subconscious that if we are put on the spot and asked, we're going to deny them. And so if you're going to be placing individuals for progression, many times, as much as we put the work of the persons, we put it and say, okay, this person's work is fantastic, person's work is fantastic. On that table, in that room, they're not looking at that. That work is not being projected. It's the perception of what you saw, what you think that person's work is, that is being projected in your mind's eye. And at that point, you are seeing the person. You are not only seeing the person, you are seeing the regularity of the connection you have with the person. So these are not things that science can tell you, this is the logic or this is the formula to it. It's human, and that is how we are created. That's how we are wired. And so the question for you is, as you want to manage your boss, if your boss is not in the office, do you come to mind? I talked about managing an assessment center, for people who are going to be managers and partners. And some of the questions we used to ask, a few things we ask is, what do you know about your clients? Beyond the work, what do you know about your clients? And so I'll ask you this, also knowing that your boss is your client. You have to manage your boss, because what's your clients? Your clients are the people who buy your goods and buy the things you have to offer. And what do you have to offer in your place of work? Your boss is the person who's buying it. Because it's the currency that you are giving, your performance currency you're giving to your boss. The boss also has the currency to be able to recommend you for promotion. And so it's give and take. But your boss would only remember you when you are top of mind. And many times, it's not only the quality of your delivery that makes you top of mind. So I'm going to give this personal example. I once had a boss who was a Muslim. And it was Salah. So let me just quickly say this about knowing your boss and building a personal relationship with your boss. So I once had a Muslim boss, and I had a very fantastic relationship with him. So it was Salah, and I went with a colleague of mine. I said, we're going to visit this man, my boss. We had a fantastic relationship. You know, prior to that time, I had another boss who was a pastor, moved on from him, and had a boss who was a Muslim, and a very strong Muslim at that. I knew then that he goes to Mecca every year, very, very religious. I met his wife, fantastic couple, very, very religious and staunch Muslims. So I visited him on a Salah holiday, went to his house, you know, we entertained, we ate, we just gisted. And all of a sudden he says, I have caught you, Victoria, you know, and then he plays a video of me speaking in church. Guess what? He plays a video of me speaking in church from beginning to the end of that teaching I did in church. And it was a Salah holiday. I was sitting in his living room and he played for me a message in church. And I said to myself, that's relationship. I never knew he had seen that video before that time. I just told myself, I'm a pastor in my church. And so you can imagine that he just feels that if this girl could do this, you know, come all the way to my house, sit with me, mix with my family, it's Salah, we ate together, and in fact, I left that his house that day, and our relationship took a different turn from that day. Even things that he wouldn't share before that time, he began to share with me, and that's relationship. And so the first thing about building a personal, knowing your boss, is building a personal relationship with your boss beyond work. I wouldn't say too much beyond that because of time, because I really want to give time for that. So that's connecting on a personal level, The other thing I want to say is about managing upward is showing up. There are individuals who will connect on a personal level all the time. And so let me go back again to what I said at the beginning. You get your job, you get your placement, many times based on your ability. But your progression has a lot to do with your relationships. And so as much as you can be placed in a role, how you progress on that role depends a lot on relationship. And see, let me tell you what, I'm not only talking about when you are being promoted, not only that, your progression on getting the job done. It's the people you have relationships with that you can call on when the chips are down. It's the people that you have built a strong connection with outside of work that you can quickly call when you need somebody to quickly, stand in for you, or you are in a dilemma you have to present, and you can be in a situation where you are texting. I remember back in the days when I joined my first professional services, that was KPMG back then. I had a mentor, my personal mentor, Victoria. Coincidentally, Victoria is her name, Victoria Yusuf. She'd advise me then to say, you don't tell your in charge, who's your boss, every time the issues that you have. So when your boss has taken you through something every time, the third time, look for other people you have relationship with. Look for other people you have relationship with and call them. But if you haven't built that relationship, when you're at that point where you need to call people, you can't. You don't have anybody to call. And so I'm going to be moving from there to talk about showing up and showing up well. So as much as I've talked about relationship, I've talked about connecting with your boss on a personal level. I'm not going to go into all the stories we've heard of people getting jobs, going to a situation and you're talking about being a Man U fan, talking about, somebody just signed a contract now and, yes, the person is back home. That's not just all that. Yes, that has its place, but there's also the place of your performance. There are going to be opportunities. Those opportunities, listen, I said before, for those that are just joining us, I said before that the most critical opportunities of your career are not the ones that your boss will have the time to sit down and plan who to give the opportunities to. They are the ones that your boss has to decide and think on his feet and just take a decision. It's going to Victoria, it's going to Tokpe, it's going to Tolu, it's going to whoever it is, or Toby. At the same time, the person has to decide on the spot. And so two things make you top of mind. One, your relationship, which we've dealt with. The other is your performance. Your boss at that point, the critical decision to take knows that I cannot afford to go over and over and over and over again the work that somebody is going to deliver, because we need to deliver this and it has to be top notch. And so at that point, the person will not have the time to process. Your boss is going to be saying, who is going to give me this top notch delivery? Guess what? If you are that person who has a fantastic relationship, you're already top of mind every time. Imagine now being that same person who will give top-notch delivery, then that gives you a double star. And so imagine a candidate A and a candidate B, both equally fantastic candidates, but one has taken the pain to know the boss, knows the boss' pains and dislikes, knows that my boss is not an organized individual. So he knows that this guy will always come and put us under pressure at the last minute. And that person did what? Decided to create a schedule for the team and says that this is our monthly schedule. I just say something and say, oh, boss, can I take this up? We have this monthly schedule that we have to do for the different departments every month. So this is what we do for finance. This is what we do for human resources. This is what we do for sales. And this is what we do for the commercial team. I've spread it in the different, I've put every one of them per week. And I think we can follow this. You know what you have done? Without putting it to the face of your boss that you are untidy, that you are tardy, you have tried to help your boss manage that weakness. And so you are that person, you are top of mind, because you know that's one area that intersects relationship and performance. And so managing your boss, knowing how to manage your boss, it's critical that you are able to find that sweet spot between having the right level of relationship and giving your best performance to the job. There's a sweet spot with every boss. For some bosses, it will tilt more to the performance than to relationship. For some bosses, they will tell you, for you to even be in this environment, you are good already. You're fantastic. You're great. You know, but what the next level is relationship. And I think that is a good point for me to also say here, that the level you are in your career also matters. The higher you grow in your career, relationships even count more. The higher you grow. Because at that point, so for example, so I read this book, and I'm going to say it here, this book, Straight from the Guts. Straight from the Guts. That's the former GE CEO. What am I forgot his name? But you can search it, Straight from the Guts. Jack Welch, yes. And he talked about how the CEO was selected after him. The CEO that took over GE after him was selected. When I read that, it was clear there was relationship at play. He already knew who he wanted, and he sort of groomed the person, created platforms for the person. Mark my words and go do your research. There's hardly any CEO, especially those that are groomed from inside, yes, Jack Welch, especially those that are groomed from inside, that there's no relationship with the incumbent. Many times there's a strong relationship, because people do that for two reasons. They do that for loyalty. They also do that for the good work they've started. They don't want somebody to come mess up the legacy they built. And my question for you is, as you're managing your boss, you know that there's a question at the back of your mind, what's the need for me? But at the same time, your boss also has what's the need for him or her. And so the question is, do you fit that picture of what your boss is looking for? And how can you make yourself fit that picture? So quickly, I'm going to be going into stakeholder management. So when I say stakeholder management, this is bearing in mind that in certain instances, it's not going to just be your particular boss that you have to manage. There are situations where people are going to sit in teams as a board, and they're going to decide your fate, especially as you grow in your career, as you grow in your career, and as you go into more leadership positions. There are going to be situations where people are going to be tearing you apart and you won't be there. And so how do you manage these people? And so I'm going to be talking about, I'm dealing with this in a quadrant format, and we're going to be dealing with it under the theme managing professional relationships. And so what I'm looking at are two different things. The first is power and influence, and the second is interest and concern. Please, if you can take that down, I believe we're taking notes. Power and interest and power and influence on one hand, and then on the other hand is interest and concern. That's it on the other hand. Please, if you can, please let me know on the comment segment if you can still hear me. Please, on the comment section, please just drop a chat. Let me know if you can still hear me, and if you can hear and see me well, please do drop a chat. Thank you. Before we go into the magazine professional relationship segment, please just drop a comment. I'd like somebody to drop a comment. Let me know. Okay, great. Prince, thank you. So I'll be wrapping up this segment because I really do not want to do more than 1 hour. So great. So I'm going to Muhyiddin. Thank you very much. That's my doctor. Thank you for joining, and thanks. So when people so Muhyiddin and I were classmates from secondary school. So when you have that, and this is just talking about relationships. So before we go into maximizing professional relationship, I want to say this here, that I'll be taking questions for the last 10 minutes. So please, if you do have any question, please do drop those questions. I'll take them later. And so I talked about the 2 axes of power and influence, and interest and concern. So when you have a 4-quadrant diagram, so if for those who can draw it, on your left hand side, I'm not using slides, that's why I'm doing this, you have power, and then on the right hand side beneath, you have interest and concern. And so also at the top hand side, the top of the quadrant, you have low to the left and high to your right. So in the box, you have 4 boxes. And the power axis, you also have low, the bottom part of the power axis, which is your left hand side for those that are drawing. And then the top part of that axis, you have high. And so what this depicts is just talking about the stakeholders, those who you need to manage, the people above you. That's power and influence. What it depicts is, how do you manage them? And the reason why we're doing this box, this quadrant, is to say that, like I said before, different individuals have the different personality styles, but beyond their personality styles, they also have the different level of influence they have on your career. And so, depending on where you are, the CEO might not necessarily have the same level of influence on your career like your direct boss, because your CEO does not have direct oversight over your work. Because at your level, if you're mid or entry, you might not even have anything to do with your CEO. It's whatever your boss says that your CEO will take. And so just depending on where you are. So you don't just say because he's the CEO, then I need to give him the entire attention. Not necessarily. So that's why I needed to draw this and to give us this background. And so for those who, depending on what you do, if their influence is high, but their interest in your work is low. Listen, if their interest is high, and so I'm waiting, please, if you can, please hold on to that question and then drop it again so I don't miss it. I'll take it later after this quadrant session that I want to talk about. Okay, so if their interest is their power that they wield is high, so like a CEO, but their interest in your particular work is low. If the interest is high, their influence is high, but interest is low. So let me use power so that interest and influence don't sound alike. If their power is high, but interest is low, for an individual like that, the way you manage those persons is to keep them satisfied. Keep them satisfied. Just make them know that things are going well. And just every time, you are doing your best, you are the best staff, you are not misrepresenting the organization, you're not on platforms where you shouldn't be, just keep those people satisfied. If they want reports on a monthly basis, ensure that before the end of the month, those reports go out. That's one way to manage them. However, for a situation where the person wields a high power and also has a high interest in your work, and so this is your direct boss, has a high power, but has a high interest because whatever you deliver impacts his own performance, that person you need to manage closely. You need to manage. There's a world of difference between keeping somebody satisfied and managing the person closely. The person you are managing closely, you want to check in on the person that yes, the person is satisfied. You want to know every time what's the next step. You want to know what would you prefer me to do. You want to know what are you looking at in the next quarter and what role can I play. You want to know how did the person fare. Maybe how was the person's own evaluation. So for example, you have a survey that you run in an organization and the person has been evaluated as a leader and you saw the areas of concern that have been raised in your team, you want to be that person that will step up and say, let me help you with this area, because you are managing the person closely. However, if you flip it and it is somebody who has a high power, the power is high but low, I already said that the power is high, but this time around the interest is low. Let me take that again. The person has a high influence and low. I said what you do, you keep satisfied. The person both has high influence and high interest, you manage closely. But where the power is low, so this is somebody that is senior to you, but does not necessarily have any influence over what you do and cannot necessarily influence your work. So both the power is low and is also not interested in what you do. Such a person, you monitor them closely. And how do you monitor? You want to be sure that the person does not have a negative impression of you. You know, when you are in meetings, when you speak, how does this person react to you? When you say hello, when you have a suggestion, how does this person, you have a sense of how people feel about you. You monitor those persons closely. You just monitor them. You know, unlike the people that you are managing closely, this time around you are monitoring. And why are you keeping that person on your radar? For two reasons. One, the person could be your boss tomorrow. So the fact that the power and the interest are both low now doesn't mean it to be perpetually low. It could change. The dynamics could change. The other reason is because at that table where the decision is being taken, while the person might not necessarily have the power to take the final decision and does not have interest, that person's voice might be the last vote to count for your progression. So you never know. And so such people you need to monitor. There's really nobody that you don't have something to do. And then the last part of it, the last bit, is for those who the power is low, but they have a high concern. And so they don't have the decision. They are not decision makers in terms of your career, but what you do impacts them. So these are your peers. These are people in other departments or other functions that might not be able to say, oh yes, Victoria should be promoted, but what you do impacts them, so they have a high interest in your work. What you do, how do you manage these people? You keep them informed. Let them know every time, this is where we are at on this project, this is what we are doing. Because such individuals would also have opportunities to speak in situations where another project will be coming up and they're going to be saying, okay, do you let's form a team, and the person will, oh no, this is the person you want to reach in that team. Every time we have reached out to the person will give you the details you want. And that person that is not influential is speaking to the ears of those who are influential, who have not had the opportunity to have a one-on-one with your work or to have a one-on-one relationship with you. And so at that point, while the person has a low power or influence over your work or over your career, because the person has high interest and you have kept them informed over time, what happens is that the person is positively impacting your career many times, both unconsciously and unknowing, to both you and that individual. And so all through this evening, see the truth is there's a lot around managing upwards, but I'm mindful of time. I really want this to be an hour session. It's going to be a regular session, and we're going to keep to time. I saw a question before, just to wrap up about the quadrant. So we talked about having the influence on one axis, and then the interest and concern, knowing how to place your stakeholders in different boxes. So we talked about keeping those who have high influence and but low interest, just keeping them satisfied. Those who have high power and high interest, manage them closely, give them a close markup. Then those who have both low power and low interest, just monitor them, keep them on your radar, even if it's not close. Just make sure you have them, you have their interest and your fingertips. And then finally, those whose power is low, but they have a high interest in what you do, those sort of people, you need to keep them informed. And let me say this cuts across different segments. So whether in your religious setting, or whether in your place of work, even in the family, that's the truth. Everything about managing upwards can be situated across different spheres of influence. That's the bit around managing. So that's the quadrant of maximizing professional relationships. I'm going to be taking the questions now. I'm so excited. I just saw My daddy, my mentor joined the call. Welcome, sir. God bless you, sir. Dr. Lumide Emmanuel. I'm going to be saying, I'm taking the question. Dr. Muhyiddin, please, if you can drop that question again, I'll do this. Somebody just said we have to make this a regular session. We will try to. There's a lot on managing careers and helping professionals grow in the careers that we can share. Dr. Muhyiddin, please, can you quickly just drop that question again if you're still on the call? I know I saw something about sucking up to your boss, so we can take this within the hour. And if there's any other question, let's also drop it. As I wait for that question to be dropped, let me just quickly do a quick recap of a few things that we have talked about. We said that the relationship, the success of your relationship with your boss is directly proportional to the success of your career growth. No matter how excellent you are, if you're excellent on the job and you do not know what your boss likes or what his dislikes are or his preferred way of working, you are not going to be the preferred person. And many times when we work, there's always the question, what's in it for us? I also talked about, thank you for dropping that. I'm picking the question already. I talked about having a personal connect with your boss. So whoever your boss is, go beyond work. What's that personal connect you have? I shared the story of me going to visit my boss who was a Muslim on Salah Day, and he played a video of me speaking in church. Who would do that? On a Salah Day, and we watched the entire video, or a preaching video, and that's relationship, connecting with your boss outside work on a personal level. I also talked about showing up and showing up well consistently. The most prized opportunities, again, I'm repeating this for those that are just joining. Many times, the most significant career opportunity you will have are the opportunities that your boss will not have the time to begin to think about being fair. It will not be the ones that your boss will have the time to plan. Who have I given opportunity to before? Who have I not given? It has to be you who are top of mind. And you are only top of mind when you find the sweet spot between relationship and performance. So you need to find that sweet point. It's not only about relationship or performance. That middle point, for each boss, it is different. And so you need to understand who your boss is and how you can maximize that balance. I'm going to be going into the question now. Doctor, you've said drawing the line between building relationship and sucking up to your boss. Thank you very much. And so I'm going to say this here, and immediately you drop this question. Something came. We need to be mindful to draw the line between being loyal and being used. Being loyal and being used. And so when you build a relationship, see, let me tell you, I talked about when you have a tardy boss, a boss who is not organized, and you have picked that from your boss. You've seen that this guy is not organized. How can I help this person? How do you help that person and you are not sucking up to him? Rather than being the one to cover up every time and to, you are not sucking up means that you are being a yes man or a yes woman. When your boss isn't doing things properly, your boss is not doing things properly, but you decide to say, yes, it is right. That's sucking up. Do you understand? Things are not being done well, but you turn the other way because you want to be in his good books and you just let things slide. That's sucking up. But the way you support a boss like that, the difference you can make is to look at that area and step in and say, how can I be a solution? So I talked about your boss who is tidy, who's untidy, somebody who's not organized. You know that your boss has always made you to drop the deadline, to miss deadlines or to drop the ball in a number of occasions. And you know that this guy is fantastic. It's just that he's not an organized person. What's your role as the team member? You step in, prepare a schedule, draw what your work charter is in your team. Drop a work charter. Who is handling what and what time? Who are the teams? Who are the key stakeholders that we need to, and even draw the stakeholder mapping I just took you through. Who are our key people with influence? Who are the people who have high concern? And draw that for your boss. In your next connect with your boss, let me quickly drop this. I talked about having regular connect on a monthly basis, on the minimum on a quarterly basis. No matter how large your team is, if you do not have a connect on a quarterly basis with your boss, something is missing at the minimum. And I don't mean the CEO, I mean your direct boss, the person who has oversight over your performance. At the minimum on a quarterly basis. And if you can, on a monthly basis, two things. You know how you are doing on your work before it gets to the end where there's no remedy that can be put in place. But the other thing is that you get to know your boss on a personal level beyond work. You are top of mind. You get an opportunity to share with your boss the things you have done that your boss might not be aware of. You get an opportunity to remind your boss. I have managed people over years, and I know when it's close to performance, because we're humans, bosses tend to remember the negative. Except the boss has taken time to write down the positive. So it's your responsibility, and it's in your best interest to make sure that relationship works. So you have your work charter, and don't go to your boss unprepared. Go to those sessions prepared. Have it. These are the things I have done. This is my target for the year. These are the things I have done. These are the contents I have. These are the things. These are the ways I want you to support me. Every boss wants to feel relevant. That's another way to manage your boss. Every boss wants to feel relevant. So if you want to do something and you know that you have an idea, ask your boss. I said it before. These are my thoughts. What do you think? And so back to the question about drawing the line. I just gave an example. So that person who would always stand up to defend the wrongdoing of a boss, that person is sucking up. And so it's just like somebody saying, because I know it's a live session and it's going to be saved, I'm going to be mindful about the opportunities the examples I'm going to be giving. But there are situations where people have gone ahead to do things that they shouldn't do just because they want to be in their boss's good books. No. There's a level of respect that you can earn over time based on two things. The relationship is not going to buy food for your boss. I once managed a staff that had performance issues, and by the time I spoke with this guy one-on-one, I realized that the persons who were saying that this guy isn't good enough to be in this place, the same persons were the ones that are sent him everywhere to do everything personal for them. So at the end of the day, he did everything personal for them. I didn't have enough time to deliver on his work. And at the same time, these same guys were saying that you're not good enough, we cannot keep you in the business. Meanwhile, he's gone ahead to go, leave the office, do a few personal runs, thinking he was managing his boss. He was sucking up to them. At the end of the day, he didn't pay them because they needed to have something concrete to defend his promotion at the end of the day, or to even defend his retention in the organization. And so building the relationship will now come from, first and foremost, understanding your boss. I really wish we're going to be having this video so that you can listen to it later, because we dealt with a number of things about knowing your boss. We did an exercise at the beginning, and then we also talked about building a personal relationship and having a connect with your boss. I'm going to be wrapping up with the final thing. I don't see any other question here, so I'm going to be wrapping up with this model. And that's the GROW model in managing your boss. The GROW model, which is the word GROW, is what I'm going to be wrapping up this segment with. When I say grow, the word grow means, yes, great. Exactly. So someone says it is crucial. Yes, something we mentioned earlier, because I said that your boss, the reason why, one of the things I said, thank you very much, Mr. Adetoye, it's crucial that you know how your boss, your own work contributes to your boss's overall success. One of the things that I said before is that one of the reasons why your boss has high interest is because what you do impacts his own delivery. And so every time you are slacking on a delivery, you are making your boss slack, because there are situations where your boss will be in that you won't be. So let me just quickly go again to wrap up with the GROW model. The first is grow. Grow means to continue. You know what? How do you grow something? You water it. You continue to build it. You build that relationship and you help it to grow. The other bit is to refresh. When you meet with your boss every time, what's something new that you don't know about your boss? Is there any particular thing that your boss is going through that you don't know? How do you refresh? When you have a system that you haven't shut down, or you have an app that has gotten some updates, but you have not used it in a while, or you're browsing, you're using your system to browse, and it tells you just refresh the page, so that you get more details. Just continue to refresh that relationship with your boss. What have I done in the past? What have I done in the past that I didn't do well? How can I get it right this time around? In that connect session, because it's not just going to be about work. That session, I have said, you should do either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. How do you have that conversation and say to your boss, in the things I have done in the last 3 months, What do you think I could have done differently? On a personal note, what way can I help you beyond my work? What other thing can I do? What do you think I can do for you? And I'm not saying go and pick my children from school. That's not what I'm saying. I have had situations where I did something for my boss's boss, and he called me and said, Victoria, I want you to do this. It's confidential. You have to do it and delete it from your system, because it's not something I could have handled at that level back then. But this came from relationship. It came from a place of trust. He didn't have the time to do, and he had to look around and say, who can I give this to do? And I was the person, I did that, and I had to delete it because it's not something I should even be able to do. Ideally, would you be that person? Do you have that? Have you refreshed your relationship with the boss over time? The other bit about grow model is to optimize it. What are the chances you have with your boss? I just gave you an example of being there, looking at your boss, looking at the weaknesses of your boss, and looking at the areas you can support your boss. Optimize it. It shouldn't only be about your work. Beyond your job, what are the things you can do to optimize your relationship with your boss? Do you have any particular area that if before your boss thinks about, you are the SME in that area, that your boss is shining because you are there? Optimize that relationship. Are there areas that you know you can quickly step in? Optimize the relationship. And then the final thing, let your relationship with your boss be a win-win relationship. Win. Continually win with your boss. If your boss will leave, let me say this. In the world we're in, and I'm going to be saying this as a human resource professional, when an individual gets a job, listen to this, and it has happened every time. When people get very senior roles, they go to those places and they build their teams. They might not build their team 100%, but many times they build their teams, many times even up to 50%. I said this before. I said, yes, subject matter expert. Thank you, Yemi, for dropping that. I said that the success of your career progression is directly proportional to the success of your relationship with your boss. Listen, for some persons, your career progression might not necessarily be where you are, but your relationship where you currently are can determine your next progression, because that relationship is what that boss will remember and say, it is this person I want to be with me. And listen, at that point, it's not only performance the boss is looking for. The person is looking for two things: performance and loyalty. Performance and loyalty comes from relation. I'm not going to have you, if I have an opportunity to build my team, I'm not going to be looking only at performance, because I can groom performance, but I cannot groom attitude. I can't groom loyalty. So at that point, because I know that at that level, at the senior management level, I need to have my eyes everywhere. I need to have my ears on the ground. And I'm not talking backbiting. I'm talking diplomacy. So why you might not be that person to go to your boss and say, this person said this. No. But you're that person that could tell your boss, oh, these are the areas we need to focus on. These are the grievances that people have. That boss needs people like that has his or her back. And you can't just wake up and say, you need to pick me. You need to build that over time. I hope we've gotten value from this session. Let me take this question, and we're going to be wrapping up with that. It said, how do you handle a boss who has security issues? Getting this feeling your performance draws you too much good feedback. Let me tell you what, the best way to do this is to put the person in the picture. Put the person in the picture. You need to be, see, that boss, you don't have a boss in perpetuity. You cannot have a boss forever. So the first thing you need to do is understand that your boss also has an element of pride. Your boss, as much as you want to grow, your boss also wants to grow. See, let me give you this example. I've been in a situation where I was head of HR in an organization, reporting to bosses who were talent partners and had no clue about HR. So in that organization, in terms of the word HR, apart from the consultant, where they had a HR consultant who was a partner, within the organization, the office operations, I was the most senior HR person. But because I was not at the executive level, I wasn't a partner, I had to report to a talent partner. And guess what? We go to meetings where the things we discuss, I have more depth. We have managed those, we have discussed what we would discuss. We've set up our plan. But when we are going to present, I'm not going to say, because I have more depth, I have more examples, then I need to be the one to present. I like present. Sometimes I'm sending WhatsApp chats and saying, these are the areas you need to look at, the areas you need to look at. And then at some point, it says, okay, Victoria, do you want to pour in more light? By the time you speak, people know that you have depth. By the time you speak, people know that you are the one, you are the brain behind what is happening. And so during that time, the feedback we kept getting every time was that, you two, you are a solid team, you're a solid team. You guys have, you started working together and you have changed the dynamics of things. Guess what? My boss had no clue about HR. But because I was able to manage him, and this is somebody who had no security issues. So he was self-aware, he was, he knew himself, he knew his value, but I gave him that space to be the one in front. And you know what that did for me? He also gave me the space to shine. So as much as I gave him the space to be the one in front, when the time for evaluation came, and he gave it his all out to say this person was ready for the next level. And so that person with security issues is knowing what is this person's preferred style of work. We're going to be wrapping up in 1 minute. The first thing, and letting the person know that I'm not trying to outshine you. So for example, you get something, somebody has said, deliver to me. Do your work, share with him, what do you think? You remember I said that everybody wants to feel significant. So somebody who feels you are getting too much, if somebody gives you something to do, so your CEO calls you and says, dude, if it is not anything confidential, you say to your boss, this is what the boss has said I should do. What do you think? Please, I really want you to help me review. As much as you have done 100%, or you go to your boss and say, please, can I present to you? Can I present to you? I want to do a dry run with you. Present to you. Let me hear what you think. Even if you have done all the presentation you want to do, just give that person, let that person. So you might go to that presentation, do so well, get all the accolades, but your boss is sitting there and saying that, oh, I had a session with her yesterday and I told her what to say and what not to say. That's one way of managing that boss. But also the other way to manage the boss is to be careful. You also need to be careful. You need to be mindful what you say and how you say it in meetings. So your boss is there. I'm not saying don't speak out in meetings, but you also you need to just study people. There are situations where I've been in meetings with my boss, and because I get carried away, because this is HR and I get carried away, sign language. My boss just, we used to understand ourselves. There's a way he gives signs and nobody knows what he's saying. I just know that, okay, Victoria, you've spoken too much. So I hope I've been able to answer that question. Just knowing what the person likes and letting the person feel relevant. Let the person feel relevant. If I review your work and I do a dry run for you, go to present, I know that, and then you acknowledge your boss. That's another way. Acknowledge your boss. Thank you for the guidance that you gave me in delivering this. People are telling you, well done, well done. You put it back and say, I want to appreciate my boss for the guidance, for his support, for his mentoring. You have killed it. That person will be your advocate all the time. I want to wrap up here. And I hope we've gotten value from today. Please, if you can just drop a comment, what's your 2 things I want to hear from people that are here. Let me know how the session was for you. And tell me what is your most profound, what's that thing that hits you the most? What's that one thing that if you remember anything from this session, you would always remember? What's that one thing that you always remember from this session? And please drop in the comment section. Let me know how the meeting was for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you. I also want to say this while you're still here. You can follow me on Instagram. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn also. I'm Victoria Ibhawa, and also on Instagram. Those are the 2 main. I'm a very, very loyal and very faithful citizen. So at the moment, I'm not on Twitter, but you can really do follow me on Instagram. That's my major now, where I have programs I'm going to be putting here. I also lead Inspired for Impact platform. So somebody said, I tried one of your key points, acknowledge your boss. Thank you. Koza just came in. Okay. Somebody's trying to type something. I hope we are able to drive. Somebody say help him take off his suit. Not necessarily. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the feedback. Thanks everyone for the feedback. Thank you for the feedback. I hope I can get that comment. And please feel free to reach out. You can send a message. If you have any other question you want me to take after this, please do send a personal message. And please don't forget to follow me on Instagram so that when I drop hints, you can see this. You need to see his smile. Wow, wow. Maybe he was struggling with the suit that day. Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. Amen. I say amen. Thank you very much, sir. That's my daddy praying for me. Thank you so much, sir. I say a big amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad this was eye-opening. Thank you. And so we're going to be having next session soon. Watch this space for more details and for the next session. We're going to be wrapping up here. I'm going to be ending the video right now. Thank you. In the final analysis of your career, your work with people is what counts the most. And it's not only the people you are impacting, also your boss. Acknowledge your boss. Build a personal connect. Make sure you build a personal connect with your boss. It's very, very critical that you build a personal connect with your boss. And then know what matters to you, boss. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to be ending the video now. Thank you. Thank you.